Yeah, all right. So obviously, everyone, thanks for watching, whether it's on Dabson stream or if it's on YouTube later. I'm your host, Potato RTS, and with me, as always, is DrDabston. And today we are joined by 10-4-Tim, who, as we were talking about just a second ago, is the first ever Low Elo Legends champion. So the kind of a new format that was introduced by Shu. So for those who kind of out of the loop, just kind of cover what exactly that was.
Yeah. So it was basically the invitation went out to anybody who previously won a Low Elo Legends tournament before. So I won mine a couple months ago, and I played against Everlast, who won actually pretty recently. Maybe it was like a month and a half ago. Best of 5. Two home maps each. First one was on Frisian Marshes, and then it actually followed the War Chief Club tournament standing. So it was two map picks or two civ picks, excuse me, and then a snipe. So
gotcha. And so knowing Low Elo Legends a little bit, obviously I have some experience casting in it and I've played it a few myself. How was it having to play a best of 5 compared to, a best of 3 or even best of 1s, having to get on some more civs compared to just, 1 or 2?
Right. Yeah, that's a good question. And the series went to 4 games, so I'm like super confident with French and Rus. And then after once game 4 hit, I was like, I have no idea what to do now. I was like, I don't have any options. I have no idea. And so I went with English game 4, and just because it was on Altai, and I was like, oh, English is good on Altai. And before I started the game, I was like pacing my apartment for like 2 or 3 minutes, being like, okay, like what do I even do? What's my game plan? Villagers shoot arrows, so I just sent 5 over there. Like
did you have to Google a build order really quick?
You know what? The past me probably would have appreciated that idea.
Yeah. Oh, it was definitely an exciting start to watch with the Vil Rush. Didn't know what to expect at all. And then it definitely ended up taking quite the turn. I remember seeing the villager graph. I think at one point he had 135 and you were at under 50. So, tell us how you ended up pulling up. Tell us where your mindset was throughout the game as well, having that happen on your side.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know the Vil count, but I believe you because I lost a shit ton. But so I did the rush in the beginning because I was like, oh, China probably can't deal with this very well. So I was like towering stuff and using villager longbows and shooting stuff. And then Feudal went relatively unhinged and then went to Castle Age, and he was making basically Palace Guard and Zugnu. So I just built a fuck ton of barracks and made men at arms with Iron Shad armor, and then didn't stop doing that for the rest of the game. No matter what comp, no matter what he chose to do to change units, I didn't care. And
sounds like a Shu method.
Yeah. And then he started building like keeps and towers around my base and like around where the farms were, because I only had very small segments of palisade walls, because walls are for wimps. So I went around and just made a bunch of men at arms and landmark sniped him. Pretty much, I had no business winning that game at all.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the walls. There were definitely multiple people in the Twitch chat saying, please build walls, Tim. And then the walls you did build were wooden walls, and they were like, come on, like do something better than this.
That was like a bait. Like, I know they want stone walls, but it's like, I'll meet them halfway with palisades. That's my compromise.
There you go. Hey, if it wins, it wins. You got the dub, and you were able to good old get the 3-1 victory.
Mm-hmm. That's right. The other game. Why don't we talk about the other games? The other games
I didn't see any of the other games. Yeah. So that was the reason why I talked about the last game, and not to mention it's the clutch game. It's the one at the end, the one you're least comfortable on. I'm sure your Everlast wasn't the most comfortable on Chinese, although I know he has played it prior to this, and I'm not sure if I've ever seen you play English.
So I started playing English after I learned French and Rus, so I probably have like maybe 15 games on it or something like that. But I don't know any. I went for the Aegis build in the beginning, and
I noticed it.
Yeah, and then forgot survival techniques. and then I just sent 5 villagers out to the other side.
So it's funny. I saw
So,
you
like-
start the deer, and I was like, okay, he's gonna go for feudal pressure, and he's gonna go the survival techniques build. And then he clicked on the mill, and I was like, oh, he hasn't started techniques. So I was like, this isn't gonna work out the correct way then. And then I saw you send the bills, and I was like, he's got his own idea. Let's just see how it plays out.
Yep. Obviously, I was like, fuck it, I don't care, because
Hey.
I didn't want to like because it feels like when you wait so long, it's like somebody who gets wheelbarrow in 10 minutes at the 10-minute mark, right? They're just like, they don't want to get it because it makes them look bad. So I don't want to get survival techniques that late because I know I should have got it 2 minutes ago, but I was like, no, I'm just gonna pretend it doesn't exist.
I will say I had I think it was a 35-minute Boulder Bay game. Didn't ever build wheelbarrow because I never built a mill and never got food from anywhere other than fishing.
But that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
At least like you have a thought process there.
It was actually one of those because wheelbarrow helps all aspects. It was one of those that I realized at like the 25-minute mark, and I was like, it's too late. I'm going to wheelbarrow. We're past this point.
If that would have gone to a game 5, you're kind of scraping the bottom of your Civ pool barrel. What would you have gone with?
No, I wasn't scraping the bottom. The bottom of the barrel had the hole cut out already, and I was like trying to reach through the ground. There was but actually game 5, so I kept banning his French because I wanted for game 5 I wanted a French Mongols matchup so I can tower rush him. So that was like my ace in the hole, pretty much the whole, because Mongols I've played a lot more than English and a lot more than Delhi. So I would say that would be my third, but just because they're not as good as they used to be, I kind of just didn't want to play them either.
Makes sense. Not to mention they're a Civ that it's harder to kind of pick up when you haven't played them in quite some time because it's the totally different build order strat, everything than any other Civ.
Right. Even just like my hand starting on the keyboard, I have to be like, oh shit, I have to remember T to put the town center down. It's just different compared to everything else.
Yeah.
So Tim, how's your experience on the new patch been? How are you liking it?
I actually love it. I don't know how you guys feel about it. Team games, I hesitate to play team games because of no landmark snipe, and I
hate that change.
I like aggressive games. I hate Imperial Age. There are sometimes like I play ranked one-on-ones, and then we get to Imperial Age, and sometimes I just leave. I don't care. I just lose the points. I don't give a fuck. I don't want to play it.
Yeah.
So team games, like when everybody's just like guaranteed to get to Imperial, and it's all about who booms the fastest, and then who has their spam of units out in the middle of the map over and over and over again. It's just, I don't know. I like the old feudal landmark sniping kind of stuff a lot better, but I know some other people like.
I had the same reaction at first reading the patch notes because that was immediately my thought was, oh my gosh, games are going to last 2 hours. They're going to take forever. But it's really gotten to a point where like I haven't had, I'm going to say one game out of over 20 team games that has gone longer than it probably should have. Other than that, it really hasn't changed anything. It's been, okay, we might have to focus on sacred sites a little bit more and actually focus on winning it that way. But most of the time, someone gets crushed anyways to the point of no return. If they're, let's say it's us three, and I know, pick on Potato over here, he's an HRE player. They focus right down on HRE. And everything, everything goes after HRE, and you're playing your Roos and I'm playing Abbasid. And all of a sudden I've done a decent job or I've boomed up or whatever. It still becomes a 2-on-3, even if your opponents are an age behind, because their eco has gone untouched most of the time if you're booming up. And then our focus becomes helping Potato rebuild. And then their opponent's focus is, we're aging up, we're putting down all the pressure, and you never get to that point other than a couple civs, and if you're really lacking in closing out the game. But I feel like at the ELO we're much better at it, or kind of aware, and people forfeit still. Like if you get crushed and you have 10 bills die at the 10 minutes into the game, and you're at 10 population and everyone else is at 50, it's like you're not having any enjoyment anyways. Towers go up, and there's a lot more pressure coming on, I would say, than like, okay, just free boom, you'll be back into the game in 10 minutes.
So it's kind of like an indirect elimination almost.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, if your let's say your landmarks get sniped, usually let's in your game today with your Chinese versus English one. He could have easily landmark sniped you instead of going for your vills, and then you dropped a keep next to your town center. But in reality, you were so crushed after that. If he had just focused on rebuilding his landmarks, dropping defensive keeps, you would have never been able to do anything because of the vill count. It's the same thing in team games where you make that realization, this guy's nothing now. Let's focus on the others, or let's finish him up, whatever it may be. There was, like I said, one game out of over 20 that it lasted longer than it should. And it was because I was the one trying to cockroach around the map and live myself and get back into the game. So it was more on me not wanting to give up and trying. We almost did. It was a close one, but we weren't able to do it.
So it was your fault, is what you're telling me.
It was my fault. I'll take it. I'll take the blame. I'll take the blame. It's always my fault, you know?
Well, anyway, I got the subreddit pulled up here. So the top post, I got really excited for about 30 seconds, and then I went in the comments and just found out it was just, from Age of Empires 3. Because a lot of people thought it was teasing a new Civ indirectly.
I didn't even know. I hadn't been on Reddit since then, so I didn't get the teaser effect.
Yeah, but it kind of raises my question, like, when should we expect a new Civ? Because I've seen a lot of people asking about it, and in my opinion, I think I would be pretty disappointed if we don't hear anything at Heidelberg. I've talked to multiple people about this, and I've been on the same train for months now. It's got to be announcement Heidelberg, release November. After that, because that's always the biggest. It's weird that, like, I guess that's my winter, but like November, December, it's like always when big sales go on. It's always when people are releasing their DLCs, their content, Christmas time, stuff like that. It always hypes up the gaming industry. And I think that's really where they have the perfect platform for free marketing. Announce it at Heidelberg. Everyone who you want to show it to is already there for the most, or is going to be watching it for the most part. And then you come out with it. It's all hyped up and everyone's ready for it.
I think it would be better if they actually released the Civ during Heidelberg or after Heidelberg, because you have thousands upon thousands of people watching that tournament, and they're like, oh shit, like maybe, I should get into this game, whatever. I'm thinking about playing it. Maybe I'm from AOE2. I want to go over to AOE4. And then you hype up this Civ. The people are like, oh, cool. I love the trailer for this Civ, whether it's like Japanese or something. They're going to be like, oh, Japanese, that's so cool. They have Samurai. When can I play it? They'll be like, oh, you can actually play it now. Like, download the game and do it right now. And that's going to make people want to play it more.
The problem is if they put it in before Heidelberg, that means the new players are playing with that Civ at Heidelberg. So that's the hard part.
If they announced it in September and then released it the Monday after.
Exactly.
Exactly. I guess that makes sense. But Heidelberg, if you think about I think it ends on the 31st of October. And so my timeline, I technically said in November, right? That's the next day.
Okay.
But I do think even if it's give them a week or whatever, I do think what you said makes sense. Like, it'd be so much nicer to have that direct transition that says, do the cool hype up trailer with, whatever the way. I'll let the marketing department decide that. They've done a great job with some of their trailers and really does look cool, but come out with it there and then try to get the Civ out as soon as possible after Heidelberg.
I guess, would you guys be disappointed if there wasn't a new Civ trailer or the new Civ didn't drop or anything? Would you be discouraged if you didn't see anything?
I would be, because if you look at Age of Empires 2 and 3, they got their first DLCs a year in. Mm-hmm. And so November would be right around a year. And so that would kind of make me go, I don't know what Microsoft's plans are.
I feel like, knowing what we've seen, and this isn't saying anything bad, it was I could see them totally passing up on the opportunity for the free marketing, like I said, and then announcing it 2 weeks after in November, just throwing the random trailer out and being like, here you go, guys. And we're like, why didn't you just do it 2 weeks ago? Because what's going to happen if they don't. It's going to be that same reaction, whether it be Mangonels didn't get nerfed fast enough or whatever, all the people's reaction, HREOP, French is too OP, so on and so forth.
Right.
I feel like I'm in the minority, because if the new Civ wasn't announced or anything, I'm still good. Like I'm okay. Like as long as they come out with it and it doesn't have 500 bugs with it, I'd want it to be like if it was new and if it was ready and it was polished and it was a little bit delayed, I'm cool with it because I only really know like 2 or 3 civs. Like I feel like I didn't even scratch the game yet.
Yeah, as far as like my enjoyment for the game, I don't need more civs. It's more so,
for the game,
the player base. Yeah,
I think for the game, it's very needed. I think just how Tim said, the people who are playing now, I think, are pretty solidified for the most part. Like I'm enjoying it. I agree. Like I don't need a new civ. I'd like one. It'd be interesting. It'd be a change of pace. I don't even know if I'd start manning the civ or even play it at all. But just I mean, it hypes up the player base. It's going to bring new people back into it and all that sort. But I think the nail was hit on the head with the having it polished. As the overall gaming situation, everyone kind of reacts so quickly of we need this now. Cyberpunk being a perfect example of it, where they're like, hey, it's not ready. And everyone's like, we want it though. You said it was good. And then it's not ready. It gets delayed. And finally they're like, fine, have it. It's not ready, but here it is. And then it's like, the game wasn't ready. And it's like, we told you, like, what'd you expect? So I'd rather have them come out with the situation that says, hey, here's a civ, it's polished, there's no bugs, or it's going to at least mesh well, because we don't want Japan comes out and has a 67% win rate now. And it's like, now it's only Japan on the ladder.
Yeah.
And then it becomes the new French conversation.
Yeah. So speaking of the French conversation, we've had some drama on the subreddit.
I almost jumped into some posts today, and I decided to hold out of it because I know how some Reddit people get, and I just felt like it was just easier to just push it back and not worry about it.
Beastie. So he released a video a couple of days ago, basically saying win rates. People should stop obsessing about win rates, which I do agree with. But the responses to that have been really funny. And then on his stream, he addressed the responses. And then I'm sure there's
I haven't seen him address
a million new posts tomorrow about his response to the responses, and it's just going to be a circle for the next week.
I haven't seen his response to the responses, but I have seen a lot of the responses. And man, some of these people's way of thinking, I'm just like, yeah, it's, I'd like rainbows and unicorns as well, but yeah, it's just not the way life is. Sorry.
I got to give credit to these people that make these posts. Like they must
put work.
Yeah, they sit down for like hours and like give me a nice, concise, short story. There's a nice, intro. There's a good body. There's a conclusion. It just like
they
even throw in the TLDR.
Oh yeah. I don't even care if what they say is shit. Like it's well constructed.
Was this the one? I think I read this one. There was one of them where midway through he puts the example as French having an OP win rate, and I was like, oh, well, this guy's just the typical French hater. And then 3 more times in his article he brings up how French is OP. And I was like, this guy just wants French nerf. That's all he wants.
I am an HRE main, but I do think it's funny how like HRE French is the matchup that everyone complains about, even though there's tons of others that are also very lopsided.
Yeah, I'm on the same train of thinking as Beastie. And I mean, I'm even like, and like I agree so wholeheartedly with a lot of his points that I'm just like, it's just so like seeing the other side's even hard for me sometimes, because I'm just like, you're never going to have a perfect win rate. You're never going to have this balance across map type, civ type, water, not water, all these different things. Play what you want to play, and balance doesn't matter until you're a top 50 player. It matters slightly. I mean, I say this coming from League, which was one of the examples he used, which it kind of just resonated just as well. He showed his op.gg, which is your way to look up your League history. And he was like, these champions don't get played in pros. Not at all. If they do, they would get laughed at. They would go 0-10. But in lower elos, it doesn't matter. I can pick my mid laner that I play. I used to play him in the jungle back when no one would play him in the jungle, but because I was better than the elo I was at, I would just dominate, and it just didn't matter. That's how it is now. Like if you play your civ and you're good with your civ, you can climb all the way up.
Yep. And I don't like, after seeing all of the matchups with the win rate percentages and all that kind of stuff, there's no real matchup that stands out to me. It's like, oh, you insta Q this matchup, you lose. Like it doesn't seem that that's such a hard.
The closest one is Beastie said Deli HRE in his level.
I agree.
I think in the lower levels, I think the HRE French makes a little more sense. But I still think it's because everyone in lower elos, they don't have multiple builds. They don't have different game plans for different civilizations. They don't have different game plans for different maps. They say, okay, I'm playing HRE. I'm playing Fast Castle. I'm going to pump out Men at Arms, or I'm playing whatever feudal English age build. And this is all I'm going to play. And then all of a sudden, if they play a defensive map, it's game over. They're never going to win. And that's the big problem. And every single time that happens, it shows up in the win rate on a negative effect on the overall gameplay, and it doesn't matter. And HRE has definitely been that civ that has had the railroaded build for the longest time.
Yeah, I don't think I've lost a game against Delhi where I ever grade rushed. Like I literally am undefeated, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
It's tough.
So like Potato, because you're on the HRE side of it, and I'm very much not. So when for you and the HRE French kind of matchup, I'm just curious to know what your take is.
I mean, it's definitely favored towards French. I think a lot of HRE players make it worse by trying to get to castle with as few units as possible. I actually play that matchup 2TC, and I'll stay in feudal for 15 minutes. I don't care. Because
And I think you saying that just shows it exactly. I mean, it's just, you can play it however you want. And guess what? If a French player is expecting HRE to Fast Castle and all of a sudden a 2TC pops down, they have to react. They're all of a sudden on the back foot. They have to play differently. And that's what people don't realize what happens is if they do the same thing every time or they do what's expected, it's what's expected. And French goes, okay, I'm going to do Knight Archers. I'm going to pressure you and you lose.
It's also fun to tower rush French, but as HRE because they just have no idea it's coming.
Yeah,
but
I've also heard people do. I mean, I don't see it as much anymore, but I saw people used to do Dark Age spearmen sometimes on the French's gold. Like there was all these different things that for a time have been utilized, and all of a sudden, if Dark Age Spearmen come out and your opponent didn't scout it, and I'm assure you, in my elo or lower, that happens, they're going to have no idea what to do immediately, and they're going to have to sit there, think for a bit, and go, oh, okay, I need to put more on wood, drop an archery range, make more archers. What do I need to do? Like it's always going to be a reaction.
Yeah. If there's a matchup you really struggle with, just try something far out there and just see how it feels. Like that's it. Right. Even if you lose, it's fun.
Right. If it's a matchup that like you feel like you can't win anyway, you might as well give it a shot because what's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to lose. You would have lost anyway. So you might as well try some new shit.
Mm-hmm.
Although if I saw an HRE Dark Age Spearman as a French player, I would probably be clicking the menu to see what game I'm in. Like, I would look at that and be like, what the fuck is this? What am I doing here?
I'm trying to think who did it. I want to say it was like Caspa or someone used to do it a little while back. Yeah. Again, I mean, so speaking of different builds, I guess we saw the past week was the Tower of Victory out of B. I've seen a lot of people trying it on the ladder. I have seen a lot of conversation about it, but I think the overall answer is still it's the Tower of Defeat.
Yeah, that was going to be my question when we got to Wololo. Was he brought out the Tower of Victory, but does that mean it's good? I'm not convinced. Would he have won that game anyway?
I don't know if he would have won it anyways. Obviously, it's hard looking back, but the big thing is that B plays the game different than anyone I've ever seen. Even the different innovators of the Mista and Igas and some of these other, B is still like, I've never seen people drop TCs where he does. I've never seen people just do any of the things he does. That like people fail to mention that wasn't only a Tower of Victory Delhi game. That was a triple TC Tower of Victory Delhi game. And if you're going to tell me that you're going to start playing triple TC Tower of Victory Delhi and efficiently utilize that on the ladder, I'm literally going to laugh in your face because that's not going to work ever in our elo. Because I mean, unless all of a sudden your opponent never scouts once or never does anything or is already expecting the deli pressure at 6 or, sacred sites, all that. But people don't know how to do stuff like B does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're exactly. And my goal, because I knew we were going to talk about Wololo at some point, my goal was to actually push propaganda that the Tower of Victory is the new way to go, so that when people go on to ladder, I can fuck up some deli players. That was my goal.
It really is. And I know Fitzbro has been delving into it. He's been having his Tower of Victory streams and trying to, fine tune builds. And I still think it's
win a game.
I mean, I'm
a game.
Well, you're also
it was also the only game I watched.
Starting the Tower of Victory, his attempting at the Tower of Victory after he had, I think it was Scotch night on Sunday night, and dropped about 400 rank, which in higher ranks, 400 rank is like a ton. In my rank, 400 ranks like 2 games, not even. But it definitely matters a little more. But yeah, I mean, he's definitely. It just shows the Civ balance doesn't necessarily always matter. It's also who's behind the computer screen and clicking the buttons and using the mouse.
You got to think about if some of those unorthodox plays that come out of B on multiple different maps on multiple different civs, the only reason why it works is because it's unexpected at the same time too. Because at a professional level, it feels like a lot of these builds that people do are so ironed down to the villager. So when there's something completely out of character that your opponent's doing, they're going to think, well, I only really know how to react to the one way that people play deli. Now that there's the second way to play deli, even though it's might not be as good or meta, I don't really know what to do against it because I've never seen it before, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's another game like that in the finals. It was the Muslim picking English on 4 lakes, and it was kind of like like what's his plan here? And then he just puts the tower down and denies both wood lines, and it's like, oh. Yep.
And it's actually funny because the 2 vills that moved out originally, they were moving out to build a counter dock, got scouted out. First one goes down. He split them up, and the second one never got found. And the second one was the one that put all the towers down. So technically could have been denied the whole time since the very start, or if not denied, delayed a minute, which in my opinion, if you watched it, a minute extra time is all he needed.
Right. Well, I do have the bracket pulled up here. So this past weekend was the July monthly. So we have 2 new players punching their ticket to Heidelberg. So of course it was B and the Muslim. So B makes it look pretty easy against Lucifron. Like, I don't really think there were any games that he was ever stressing too hard.
No, not really at all. Watching those games, he really made Lucifron look like not the type of player he is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now I know B, like, he took a break in the middle of AOE's tenure in the Populace, right? He took like a however many month break, or I didn't see him play like in tournaments or whatever. But it feels like over the past month he's really starting to really show his potential.
He definitely he was one of the names that everyone talked about just missing for N4C, just missing for Golden League. And then I do think he like stopped maybe grinding the ladder as much in that kind of period of Golden League where it was like, okay, the people who didn't make it, what do we do kind of thing.
There's like the top 8 was like 3 weeks or something.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was probably the time where you were thinking, and maybe even a little bit longer. And then ever since this has come out with Wololo, he's been basically top of the top, but hasn't qualified. And there was actually a little post in the Discord that basically was like I think Don Artie said, appreciate B for being the sportsman that he is and actually winning, because he technically could have just lost, continued to qualify each monthly, and continued to, he already is guaranteed. He was guaranteed a qualifying spot by his placement already because it's like best 3 weeks finishes. And he basically was like second. And there was no way no one else would have been ahead of him.
Well, he's won 2 weeklies. And
that's what it was.
Winning gives you just like a crap ton of points. And like how many players that haven't already qualified are going to win a weekly?
And so he has enough points to qualify. That's what it was. He has enough points to qualify already. And then like technically he can just keep playing the monthlies and getting as much money as possible, but not having to qualify. But instead punched his ticket.
That'd be a scandal, wouldn't it? If that actually happened, he won a couple weeklies, and then gets to the monthly, gets second every time, but makes it close, makes it like a 4-2.
Like, oh, this
like,
is such a close game.
Yeah. Try my hardest, guys. Don't know what to do.
Another invisible horseman raid again on game 3.
Yeah. So B actually had a bit of a scare against Hut. Hut took him to game 5. So
yeah.
Hut's one of these sneaky guys to watch out for once kind of all the names we expect to get in. And there's, people fighting over those last 4 spots.
It's weird. There were a lot of 3-0s in the first round. As you see, every single one but Hut in the first round was a 3-0. And it was so weird watching because I don't think that's how it's been any of the weeks. I feel like all the games have been closer. And even the matchups that you see, a lot of them are close matchups, but people just got the better of the other side, came to play when the other one didn't.
Do you feel like as you watched a lot of those 3-0s, do you feel like it was a lot of like drafting issues? Like they didn't put themselves in good situations, that kind of stuff?
There were definitely a couple where I think it was like, I expect this Civ to be played here. I'm going to pick this one because he's not. And then it's like, oh, I get stuck with, let's say, French versus HRE. And then next game, I just played HRE and now I'm playing Delhi and then they pick HRE and it's like, well, that's a 2-0. And then the third game. And I did see a lot of that where I was kind of surprised with some of the matchups and some of the Civ choices. But I think a lot of them were also just one player having a little bit more confidence, maybe one player getting a little tilted after the first game. Maybe something happened that set him off, didn't go as expected, and then just wasn't able to kind of persevere because it definitely, when you're coming to these monthlies, it's on a totally different level than the weeklies. I say that acting like I've been at a monthly. I mean, I don't even have the pressure at these weeklies because I'm not going to have any wins. But these guys, they're definitely going to have the pressure. I'm sure their hands are shaking and things like that once they start getting this much money on the line, qualifying spots.
Yeah. Speaking of drafting, that reminds me, someone on Sunday, I think it might have been Lucifron, banned Abbasid, which I thought was interesting.
I believe it was Lucifron.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the pros, they have a lot better idea of like their matchups and draft choices. And really what opened my eyes with this one was talking to Don Artie one day. I forgot which matchup he was talking about, but he basically was saying like, this is going to be the matchup here. This one's going to be the matchup here. And then it literally was matchup after matchup after matchup. He called the whole entire series ahead of time. And you're like, that just shows you what scouting, what playing, what being at a high level can do is like, what's supposed to be picked. And just how we talked about earlier with like a 1 villager difference and things like that, the differences and where your advantages lie.
So if he banned Abbasid against B, does that mean that he knows that B has some crazy strat with Abbasid?
It could be, or it could have just said, hey, I know B wants to play Abbasid on X map, and that'll force B to play a different Civ on this map, which will play, it'll be that cascading effect.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people, the people that like really weren't happy about that Abbasid ban, I feel like they just don't have the insider information. I mean, it was just like a lot of stuff.
Obviously, Lucifron is smarter about the game.
So where I will compare it to is a couple weeks back on Four Lakes. Roos, back when Four Lakes was pre-changed a little bit, Roos was literally pick or ban on Four Lakes every time. And so it was the week Wham lost to the Missa. And on the last, and this was actually one of the ones me and Don Artie were talking about, I knew that it was about to be, he held Roos the whole time. Let his opponent get Roos, let his opponent get Four Lakes, but Four Lakes was the last map. So he knew that Roos couldn't be picked on any map. He was going to save it for Four Lakes. So in turn, you essentially have just banned 2 civs from your opponent rather than 1. Because if he holds Four Lakes to the very last map, that means Roos isn't getting picked on Highview. Roos isn't getting picked on whatever other map you may favor Roos on, and which in turns narrows down your civ options that you're going to be playing against. And so it's like that exact example that people don't think about. It's like, oh, you left Four Lakes open with Roos. That's an auto win for your opponent. It's like, but it's also an auto matchup benefit for me all leading up to Four Lakes if you just hold it in your back pocket.
It's crazy what a couple Roos fishing boats can do to an entire best of 7.
Yeah, crazy. Being a Roos man, I'm sure you're happy hearing that, Roos has to be held out just because of that. There are certain maps that Roos is just super, super strong on.
Oh yeah, it becomes the focus of. I mean, now that Four Lakes is part of the map pool and all of these weeklies and monthlies, Roos is like just talked about all the time. So.
Yeah. And people have started to figure out a little bit of a way against it. China is now one of the main civs picked on Four Lakes as well to kind of counteract that. They still, both fishing boom, but China's able to somehow get those sneaky docks and build up, still supervise their wood eco.
And I wouldn't think that China would be that great just as when you're contesting the lakes, like the junks suck. Like they're not that good. So I never thought that China would be something to play against them, but I'm also not on this this bracket, so.
Yeah, no, I kind of was my exact thought was like, oh, 2 junks come out, there goes your whole fishing, and then I see Roos like just being fine, and I'm like, the junks aren't doing anything.
Yeah.
But I think in reality, what it's doing is it's causing extra APM. Fishing boats are no longer coming out; they're being attack ships now instead of fishing boats, or even better, fishing boats are being transitioned to attack ships, which is a significant investment change for the Roos as well. So, a couple ideas.
Yeah. So B qualified. The other player to qualify was the Muslim. So he was at a StarCraft 2 tournament, which was he casting? I don't even know.
Yes, I believe he was casting, and I don't even know if this is true, but I heard he might have played on a laptop.
He did. He said that in his the post game interview. So pretty impressive by him to just in that setting take a 3-1 series against a player that's as good as Wham is.
Yeah, and you could tell how hot it was over there. He was sweating, like profusely sweating, and was struggling over there. I'm sure that was just not the environment he's used to playing in, which is not easy to do. That's for sure.
I remember the Muslim saying, I think Wham was in one of his streams or something a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and he was like, I have to bring 100% to beat somebody like Wham. I remember him saying that verbatim, and there he is perspiring all over a laptop and ends up taking a 4-1. So I think for him it was just kind of inevitable. I was just waiting for whatever month it was.
Yeah. And I feel like there's still a couple names that we feel are inevitable, but it's starting to get closer and closer to crunch time. And obviously the weekly points will come into play for some people, but you still got to show that you have it in you to take down a monthly and get through all of the harder contestants.
Yep.
Now, my question is, now that we only have a couple monthlies left, who do you think gets snubbed from Heidelberg? There's going to be 1 or 2 players that are going to not end up making a monthly, not getting the points, or that maybe deserve it. But I'm curious to see
what we have 8 people qualified right now, or is it 8 or 10?
Yeah, I think we have 8. So left we have August and September monthlies, so that's 4 more. And then
2 points.
2 from points, so that's 6, and then 2 from the last chance qualifier.
So 8 more people. 8 more. I think Lucifron, Wham, Vortex.
I think they all get in on
Caspa.
Yeah.
Hut. That's 5.
Yeah.
That's easy 5 choice there. I feel like I'm missing people. Yeah, I mean those are my first 5. The next 3 are going to be a little bit harder. I feel like it's after that there's a lot more options out there.
I think once you get past that, I think the players are really tightly grouped. So like that last chance qualifying tournament is going to be pretty crazy. So we can take a look at the
Puppy's already qualified.
Yep. So here's the points. So BCB. So the first player that's not qualified is Vortex. And so they take the best 6 weeks. So we're halfway through. And he's got 2 top 4 finishes, so he's in a decent spot. Caspa and Wham are next. So, but after that, look at all this. This is really tightly packed.
Exactly. And I think Capoche has kind of been solid. He hasn't really gotten to that next level yet. Psyarch has been coming around a little bit, being a lot more consistent, but he still needs to do the same. Divine, he's hit or miss as well. I feel like there's days that he's definitely no longer the power rush only Divine or pick French and that's going to be it Divine. Is
he playing like 8 civs actually?
Yes. I'm not sure if it's 8, but I was watching his stream the other day and he basically said, yeah, I mean, rank's better. Like this season updates are so much better. That's why he was streaming again. And he picked.
Does he ever talk?
He does not talk. He chats back though.
Okay. I was gonna say I've tried watching his stream and he never says anything.
He never says anything. He chats back, but I saw him play 3 different civs, 3 games in a row, and I was like, I don't know. It might be a new divine.
Well, I mean, he's not talking, so it might not even be divine. Just somebody else. Right?
Someone's just impersonating divine.
Yeah, like the scam Twitter accounts that like slightly change one character.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cyark's a name I see a lot. I watch a lot because of War Chief Club, and he has gotten way better over the past couple weeks. So I think he is kind of in contention to be up in the running for those final 3 spots that we were kind of talking about. Neutral Bear I haven't seen much of lately. Okay, he hadn't played the past couple weeks.
Yeah. What happened to running?
Running is AOE2 now. Back to AOE2.
Okay. I got you.
And I'll scroll down a little bit. There was someone I saw. Oh, I think honestly, if State actually starts grinding more and gets off of he also is a StarCraft 2 sub commentator for stuff like that. I think if State played more, he'll be quite up there in the running. Swiss Orc just played well the other day, but I think Sort of is another name that we've seen in the past play really well.
Yeah, Recon's there. There's
Nyan.
There's a ton of names. Like it's
Nyan. So I'll tell you this: if this update in August comes out and fixes hotkeys, then Nyan actually gets to utilize hotkeys. I'm gonna say Nyan makes the top 16. If the update lets him utilize hotkeys, I'm a Nyan fan.
Yeah, that's kind of insane. Hitting 11 points without hotkeys. You got to give him that.
He is that high without hotkeys.
Yeah, like that's pretty sick.
What's his issue?
He doesn't use hotkeys at all.
Why can't he?
He's I think he came from Age of Mythology, and the hotkey system is just totally different. And he's just like, nah, I'm not gonna.
He's like, I'm not messing with this grid hotkeys.
Yeah, like he's just like, no go there. Not happening. Which I mean,
he's taking the Chewbacca approach of pointing and clicking everything. So.
Yeah, and I mean, watching, because he streams a decent bit, and watching him play, like he's so good at like talking about it, analyzing, and another kind of reinforcing point with Tim's point earlier with talking about how like pros are so like 1-2 villager difference he'll know about. I remember when he was playing back on Frisian Marshes when the relic bug was worse. I forgot who he was playing against, but he was like, I thought there was one less relic on the map, and he played it totally different when his opponent got an extra relic. And his opponent even, they talked about it after. He said, yeah, I didn't think there was an extra relic either. And he said he would have won that game if he knew, but didn't. And I was like, oh, that's something you like don't even think about at all. And like he played it totally different. I was like, that's another thing that like me thinking my opponent has an extra 100 gold a minute doesn't mean anything to me. Whereas to the pros, that matters a lot.
Yeah.
Exactly. Have you guys been casting low elo legends on this new patch? Have you watched a lot of those?
I've watched a little bit of it. I haven't done the casting as it has been on Fridays for me, and that's no go for me during work. But I get to check in every now and then.
I was wondering if there's people kind of in lower brackets have been trying new stuff.
I don't know if it's see, I usually cast it every week. So I don't know if it's new or unpolished. I'm not really sure what the actual the reasoning why they do things, especially once you get into that like bronze to gold 3 kind of stuff. You know what I see a lot? I see a lot of English, and then I see a lot of white towers and random mirrors. Yeah.
So I was on that trend early on in the game. When I was low elo, I loved it. I don't know why.
Someone's gonna have to convince me otherwise, but I think that's the absolute worst landmark in the entire game. It's a fucking keep. It doesn't do anything except be a keep.
It's a siege workshop.
It's a siege workshop.
Oh my god. So it's another keep.
So I think it is viable in certain situations, very rare situations, but very certain ones. I think the only reason why it gained a tiny bit of viability is due to the stone rebuilding mechanism now and having wood.
Yeah, I
so
think that
you
was a
can,
big buff to all the defensive landmarks.
yeah. So getting that down can really turn itself into a siege war that you already get the leg up on because you're English. And then usually you've already transitioned to farms, which your opponent will eventually have to, which means no siege for him while he's transitioning to farms. So there's a couple things, but no, King's Palace all the way. I mean, it's just,
I mean, if you're on King of the Hill, fine. Okay,
yeah,
I get it.
That was my go-to. It was Fast Castle, White Tower on the Hill, game over.
Like, I understand your thought process while going through it, but like, I don't know. I see some shit in like Dry Arabia, and they're like trying to protect one like stone outcropping, and they toss a white tower on it. I'm just like, what?
I saw one. It was a white tower behind his TC, and I was like,
yeah.
Oh no, this isn't going to protect anything. Like,
right.
It was almost like when Drongo said, like, oh, you put like the new Chinese Great Wall on your farms and you protect up your farms with it. It was like that with the White Tower, but there wasn't even like a ton of farms. Like, no, this isn't what you need.
And I guess like I'm being totally hypocritical at this point, but like just build walls. Like you don't need to make a white tower like in the back. I don't know. But that's the only thing like worth mentioning, I think, that I see. I haven't seen any tower victories.
Whoa, Fitzbro with the huge raid over here. So we got a bunch of extra viewers. Welcome, Fitzbro.
There we go. Yeah. Just over the months, are there any other just interesting, maybe interesting is not the right word, builds you've seen on low Elite Legends?
I don't know why, but out of that bronze to gold 3 bracket, I'm still seeing Minework Palaces. And even after Aachen being better, I'm just like, what the fuck are we doing, guys? Like, come on. Like, do you watch any YouTube videos at all? You gotta put Aachen Chapel down.
No, no, it's next level, right? Because
yeah, it's super 5-head, dude.
No, Aachen.
No,
seriously, you're saving the gold of like 3 prelates, whereas Minework, you're getting all those discounts.
I'm not an HRE player, and I don't claim to be, but I think you're dumb for putting that Minework Palace down.
Yeah, I think unless you're utilizing the Minework Palace, it should be opposite end, because you think about it in the terms of a snowball game. Like, yes, you might not utilize the Minework Palace, or you like, oh, but I'm using it later for cheaper upgrades. Well, HRE doesn't care about later. If they got to later, they usually win. You care about earlier, and earlier is where your chapel is going to help you snowball your eco to get to later. And so that's really where I think that is the big difference, because I had the same thought process too. I was like, I mean, you're going to use the upgrades later on. You can just pump those out. Once relic income comes in, it's great. And then it's like, well, it doesn't matter if you don't get to that relic income part. And that's the key.
I also see people do Minework for great.
Your mic just went weird. I think you half unplugged it.
Oh, is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I see people try to go Minework with Burgrave, and it's like, you're not going to have any food because your peoples aren't inspired.
Yeah.
Or any men at arms.
The only time that I think I saw it utilized and it made sense to me was remember when 2TC HRE was like the meta? That was when it made sense.
For like 2 weeks.
It was like a hard 2 weeks though.
I'm still on it. I'm still a believer.
People loved it. Like 2 weeks, it was nonstop. I even saw Casso do a bunch of 3TC HRE, and I'm like I don't get the benefit of it. And then people realized that it wasn't a good build.
It's actually terrible.
There's just a lot of better options.
I don't know. Like, I think Aachen and probably Golden Gate, I would say, are arguably the 2 best landmarks.
I think Golden Gate's easily the best landmark, because it's infinite resources through the whole game.
Right. But all of them, like, they're able to, you get that longevity. Like, that feudal age landmark actually helps you in every single age and every single minute of the game. Yeah. And you're gonna not do that for Minework fucking Palace. You know, like it just like it doesn't compute to me.
Yeah, and I hate the argument that's like, well, you just have another prelate to inspire. It's like, no, it's not the same. It's not the same. But I kind of agree where it's like there's certain land, like think about Mindwork Palace being on any other civilization. I think it'd be utilized like a ton. Like it's just like compared to the chapel, it's not. Like if it were on, I don't know, let's just say a somewhat feudally aggressive civ, not French because you can't replace the School of Cavalry either for them. But even like English's Council Hall, like if
like English, if that replaced Abbey of Memes, would that actually be like a decision?
Yes, because you already have seen some people with early farms, you can sustain your food eco much better. So in turn, what you do is you are able to pump out horsemen and sustain the horsemen longer. And you're going to have all those upgrades that are nice and cheap and free. Or Dark Age Men-at-Arms, or Vanguard Men-at-Arms, whatever they're called at that point.
That was another thing that was meta for like a day.
Well, it's again, when people learn how to react to these builds, it makes it much easier. So I had someone actually, I think it was in good old Fitzbro's Discord, talking about the Dark Age Men-at-Arms rush. And I had the argument that I would rather see a Villager rush. It's a lot better and more efficient and will be utilized much better. And his argument was, no, the barracks make sense later in the game. And I'm like, you can't have that argument. Right. Because all that happens is they just need to, if they scout that out, it's impossible. Whereas if you scout out the villagers coming, there's sometimes no reaction that you can take to end up stopping the villager rush.
Mm-hmm. I do want to see someone try the Dark Age barracks again, because it's been so long since we've seen it that no one expects it. I bet if you're in a Wololo and you got a tough matchup against like a player that's better than you, right? Like you could take someone off guard with that.
Yeah, the key there, I think you're never going to do that when you have Vil Rush. It's just better in every sense, and the pros are going to be able to react 10 times better to Dark Age Men-at-Arms compared to the short bows. It's just plain and simple. And so I think it's like almost like, I think like Beastie kind of has said this on some of his videos where he's like, if you're going to have an option to have a 5% higher win chance, why would you ever choose the other one? Like you always should be choosing the thing that gives you the better option for the win. And in that case, I think it would always be the Villager Rush compared to the Dark Age Men-at-Arms. Mm-hmm. Even the game that I think the Muslim did it against Wham on King of the Hill, I think Wham actually should have won the game if he realized that he didn't have any food when he was going up to Castle Age. Because I still remember that game, and he was on 0 food for like 3 minutes straight. And if he had just reacted to that, built farms ahead of whatever, because he had thousands of wood, I think at one point, he would have been totally fine in that game, and he still had options, even though he didn't react well to it at all.
Yep. All right. Well, Tim, you got anything you want to plug? And I know you have a Twitch channel, but I haven't really seen you stream.
There's been a couple times.
Yeah, dude, work is rough, so I don't really get a chance to stream as much as I'd like to. But I do. I did 3 weeks ago. That was pretty cool.
3 weeks ago. Yeah. I know Tim's a part of the good old Low Elo Legends, so always going to end up plugging that because obviously the more participation, the better. It's a tournament that it's fun, it's enjoyable. There's additional champions tournaments that you're able to participate in. You're also, there's a Discord, bunch of practice, people who play, scrim, advice, all that. So definitely would suggest anyone who hasn't ever heard of it or checked it out to end up doing so.
Yeah, if you finished ranked season 1 anywhere from bronze to Conqueror 1, you can play in those tournaments, and you win money, absolute cold hard cash, and they were actually good prizes last time. I think the winner got a little over $20 or something like that, which is that's pretty good.
It's not nothing. Yeah, so Shu takes all of
something,
his,
take a girl out.
Yeah,
so
nice. Chewbacca takes all of his stream proceeds and dumps it into that. So
yeah, but he also it was last week he bought a chain. So I don't know. I honestly have no idea where the money's going at this point. So
yeah. He said it was real diamonds. It was a couple grand. So I think that's probably from all Twitch earnings, because I know how much money you make off of Twitch, and it's definitely a lot.
Yeah. He's obviously big time now. Yeah.
We're gonna audit Shu.
Oh. Speaking of going big on Twitch, Blue Sun 5 gifted subs. Huge shout out. So, we'll give him a shout out. Big plug at the end of this video.
Ebbs is rolling in it now.
Yeah.
Where's your chain, dude?
It's in the mail right now. Y'all see.
Yeah. For sure.
A lot of gold, platinum. Yeah, everything involved.
Yep, for sure. A little diamond studded. Chain. You know what it should be? It should just be a fat, just like that Dabs logo. You know how like Flavor Flav had like the giant clock?
Yeah.
It'd be like a giant Dabs thing right there.
That'll be it. It's already in the mail. It's customized, submitted. I got Lil Wayne's jewelry guy on it.
Oh yeah.
Oh, but yeah. So good little episode today. Thanks for jumping on, Tim.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the invitation. I had a lot of fun talking to you guys about the game. So
it's fun to just shoot the shit and talk, about this game that consumes so much of our, thoughts. Yeah, and when I'm sitting at work, I think of what builds can I try. Like that's how obsessed I am about this game. So
I just think about playing French, so I don't really think too hard.
You're like how do I press W? Like that's all you have to do. Yeah.
Oh yeah, A move. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I got it.
There we go. That's all we need.
All right. Yeah. Well, we'll hopefully see you guys again next week. So yeah, thanks for watching, and see you later.
Later. See y'all.